Welcome to the Modern CPA Success Show, the podcast dedicated to helping accounting firms stay ahead of the curve. Our mission is to provide you with the latest and greatest insights on cutting-edge tools, innovative marketing strategies, virtual CFO services, and alternative billing methods. Join us as we change the way people think about accounting.
Adam, we're about to hear from Michael Clarke. Any thoughts on what our listeners are about to hear?
Yeah, he wrote a great book with some real practical lessons on things that, business owners, we just need to make sure that we're always actively working on the business. So I think he's got a lot of experience and talking through the book has been pretty powerful. Good examples in there.
Yeah. And specifically, it addresses accounting firms, other professional service firms. So I think people could listen for their own firm and maybe for the clients that they serve for that. So I hope people enjoy it. He gives some nuggets from the book, some examples, some things, and we talk about some of the things that relate to what we do also. So hope people really enjoy it.
Yeah, let's jump in.
Okay, welcome everyone to another episode of the Modern CPA Success Show. I am Tom Waddleton, joined by my usual co-host, Adam Hale. Adam, welcome today.
Hey, Tom.
So, guest today, we have Michael Clarke. And Adam, Michael is a founder and chief implementation officer of Protection PowerPoint Advisors. Michael, welcome.
Thanks. It's great to be here, guys.
So, would love to hear, by way of introduction, a little bit about your career story and kind of what brought you, and then what does chief implementation officers, all the power that's bestowed upon you with that role.
Okay. Well, sure. So I started in the business a long time ago, back in 1992. I started with a big insurance company, started as a life insurance agent, as many of us do. And for a while, it was just kind of transactional, an insurance policy here, an annuity there, that sort of thing. But it wasn't too long before I started to kind of migrate over to investments and financial planning. I became a part of their advanced planning unit that they had developed in the mid 90s, and then that continued until 2009. And it just didn't make sense for my partner and I, who founded this firm, to be there anymore. So back in 2009, we formed what is now Protection Point Advisors, and we are independent advisors. We're fee-only advisors, so we're not selling commission products anymore and whatnot. And this, I like to say, the story continues. I like to call myself chief implementation officer. That really just means that I have the lion's share of the responsibility for executing what are a lot of really, really great ideas and innovations that we've put on the table over the last few years.
Cool. And some of that's come together in a book.
Yeah.
A Firm Worth Building. Can you tell us a little bit about why you wrote that, and we can dig into it a little bit?
Yeah. Well, the Firm Worth Building is, and here, I'll plug the book here. There it is.
Good.
Available on Amazon. It really, in some ways, is a result of having, I think, made a lot of mistakes over the years. I like to say the secret of my success is I didn't die, because I should have. I mean, I made every mistake you can make when it comes to building a business, but I'm out the other side of it now. And I think the book is about essentially how any professional can turn a professional practice into a real business. And I think it begins with kind of thinking entrepreneurially and thinking of, how do you begin working on your business, as they say, as opposed to working in your business. And we see a lot of CPAs, attorneys, other professionals who are kind of prisoners of their own success. I mean, they're making a good living, but they don't have any freedom because it's just their practices are running at capacity, and they don't know how to get out from under it and take themselves out of the center of their own universe. So a lot of what's in the book is about how to do that, how to use different principles. We talk a lot about edification, where you always look better to other people if you're talking well of other people and you're building up other people who are on your team. We very, very much believe in the concept of teamwork, where professionals work with other professionals for common clients, because it just follows the family office concept. and we talk a lot about building digital family offices for our clients. So all this stuff goes together, and the book really takes you on a journey of how to get there. Okay. So anybody who reads it, you're going to come out the other end and go, okay, I think I can develop a roadmap for how to have the business I've always wanted.
Yeah. I think the audience that's listening, I can see two different places that people would take this. You work with CPA firms.
Mm-hmm.
In the Modern CPA Success Show, we target CPAs. So I think one could be, well, for my own practice,
right,
I can leverage this. And then we also talk about, we want to be advisors, and we are advisors to other businesses, often small businesses.
Right.
It sounds like a second piece. You could say you can also turn around and be an evangelist and explain kind of these things to people.
Well, yeah, no, I think we can. And admittedly, I get a little evangelical myself about this concept because I just think it makes so much sense, and it's so simple that if you have a common client, if I have a client and they have a CPA and I should be working together. We should at least know each other. It's not like we're going to talk all the time, but heck, at tax time, there is stuff I can give you that will help you. So, hey, it's available if you want it. Okay. But I just got off the phone with a client who was asking about taking money out of her IRA and giving it to a charity. And what are the tax ramifications there?
Oh.
And I just said, okay, here's what I know, but go to your tax preparer and get your tax preparer to bless it. Okay. So I also believe in staying in my lane because I get questions all the time that are outside my expertise, and you got to disclaim them that way. But if I had a relationship with her tax preparer, in this case, I don't, but if I did, I could say, hey, why don't I call the tax preparer and see what's what? Okay. And that elevates my standing in the client. I'm more valuable to the client if I'm doing that stuff. Okay.
Yeah. Because Michael, I would have said, this is what I think. You should go talk to your financial advisor. And then to your point, the client always just feels like they're kind of being ping ponged back and forth between professionals. Whereas if you can bridge that gap, shoot each other a quick email, get on the same page, then it doesn't really matter who gives the advice. You can say, hey, I spoke to Adam, or hey, I spoke to Michael. This is what we decided. This is what you should do.
Well, I think it's important to recognize that so many of our clients, they hire us because they don't want to devote energy to this area, whether it's tax, whether it's estate planning, whether it's what I do. They just don't want to devote energy to it. So the more I can say, you know what, I'll do it, the more they go, oh, yes, thank you. That's why you're here. And I think sometimes advisors forget that. I know attorneys forget that. I think sometimes tax people can forget that. They forget the clients just want to be taken care of, right? Just take care of me so I don't have to worry about it.
Right. In a very simple example, as we just passed estimated tax payments due. When we do taxes, and we do for a lot of our clients, we're telling them what to do. Where we don't, I'm often saying, would you like me to let your financial advisor know what our forecast is for your taxable income? They always say yes. And they've got it in the statements that we give them. But it is that kind of relief that you showed of, oh, yeah, would you please do that? Very simple thing to do. But to them, this feels complicated that it's an easy thing for us to do.
Well, no, absolutely. And one of the things we emphasize at the firm is financial planning, which is kind of, it exists to a certain extent in its own universe. It's that place where you figure out whether you can get what you want. Okay. We have to forecast taxes and do estimate. So the more I know specifically about what someone's cash flow looks like, the better job I can do of building an accurate financial plan. So yes, absolutely. Do tax preparers give me that information often? No, I wish they did, but we're working on it.
Yeah.
So Michael, just kind of talking through some of the concepts in the book and everything, what do you think is the most common mistake professional business owners are making whenever it comes to managing their own firms?
I think the most common mistake is they're the center of it all. Their practice is centered around them. If they were to get hit by a bus, the whole thing goes down. Okay. So they don't think about succession, particularly if they're older. They don't think about succession. They often don't bring in younger associates, groom them, lighten their workload, things like that. The other mistakes probably we see are, ineffective infrastructure, I think, is another one. Do you have the right people doing the right thing? Did you hire correctly? Are you paying people what they're worth so they don't leave? It's kind of the basic stuff. And then do you have a process that can be replicated? That's another thing. We took a look at replicating a process with all our reps that everybody could use. So in a way, it's sort of the franchise model in some ways, but you got to have a process that works. And I think the other is CPAs, attorneys, and a lot of professionals. They don't brand themselves at all. There's no recognition of what they do that makes them unique in the eyes of the people that they meet with. They don't tell that story of what their superpowers are and why someone should consider doing business with them. So there's a lot of what we do with the National Referral Network, which is a network of professionals that we created so we could outsource without anxiety. Okay. A lot of what we do with working with our partners is to teach them that stuff. It's sort of like the elevator pitch, right? What's the elevator pitch supposed to make you do? It's supposed to make the person listening want to know more. Tell me more about that. Okay. So those are some of them, I think, but they're not insignificant. And the ones we see, the professionals who see that meaningfully address this, they have different businesses.
Elevate your firm with a virtual CFO playbook, how to land $60,000 per year clients and provide a killer client experience. This comprehensive online series of modules provides you with the essential tools to create and deliver scalable VCFO services. Developed from Summit's successful approach, which propelled them from $500,000 to over $10 million in revenue in 10 years, this playbook will equip you with the skills to take your firm to the next level. Additionally, upon completion, you can receive 24 hours of CPE credit for the course. Ready to grow your firm? Enroll now at vcfoplaybook.summitcpa.net.
I know in the book you have what I really love about it is you have actual practical lessons in there, right? And so I think you have like 30 lessons in the book. So if you only get to pick one though, I know you got 30 for a reason. It probably started off with Michael's top 10, and then it's like, well, maybe I need to go 15. And by the time you got done, there was 30 because I know a lot of these kind of build off of one another and they kind of spill into one another things. So, but I mean, if you just had to pick one, what do you think is the most crucial for business owners to really kind of buckle in
I don't. It's hard to pick just one. I think what I get asked about the most is this thing called trust compression. Okay, and that's where it's the process of accelerating someone's or building someone's trust quickly. Okay, and I think there's a psychology to it. I mean, we frame it as a series of small but deliberate interactions that are close together. Okay. So for example, we have taken what the normal intake process would be for, onboarding a client and broken it down into 4 small but bite-sized steps. And the idea of that was that we get better retention. The people we're talking to actually understand what's happening. And it's not like, so it can be a series of 4 successive meetings, but they can be combined in some cases. So, for those going, 4 meetings, don't have to be, but we usually do it that way. And nobody seems to object because we can also intersperse educational content in between meetings. So the idea being that anybody who's going through the process can digest it, right? And they come out the other end having learned a lot about what we do, but more importantly, a lot about themselves. Okay. And so the idea of trust compression is to really run that process, 6 very small but deliberate interactions that are close together to accelerate what sometimes takes a lot longer.
So that they can, is the idea so they can kind of see because a lot of times for clients, it's, building trust is delivering on promises, right? So yes. Is that what you're saying? So you're taking that normally what you could have put into one gigantic kind of a
Right.
feel, and then people not really know where the beginning and ending is. And I think we experience that whenever we do onboardings as well.
Yeah.
And instead, breaking it down into sections allows you to get rack up small wins. And
Right.
we talk about it all the time. We talk about like trust is like, and I can't remember who told us this, Tom, but you'll remember like the marble jar, right? So you got to put them in one at a time. And unfortunately, as service professionals, whenever we have an accident, the whole thing spills out. So then you got to like slowly build them back. So what you're saying, what I'm hearing you say is instead of putting like one big marble in, you can put like 4 in pretty quick and help to kind of get that foundation going.
Yeah, I think so, because our approach to this is education. Is being teachers, and I would think advisors of every persuasion, we need to be teachers. It's not enough to talk about what we do and why it's necessary. Teach someone and bring them along with you. I mean, how many people have estate plans? They pay, I don't know, $4,000, $5,000, $6,000 for a big fat binder. And they go, I think it's my estate plan. I think it works, but I don't know. Okay.
Sure.
Financial plans.
Guilty.
Guilty here. I mean, I could print out a financial plan that's like 80 pages. Okay. That no one's going to read or understand. Okay. Now, it's not that information doesn't need to be there. I need to know their financial plan works, and I need to know why it works. But I also I need to explain to them in very simple terms. Like, look, here's in summary form, this is what's up. This is what's happening. Okay. And so I think that educational element a lot of times is just missing. And I referred clients to attorneys, and a client walks in, and the attorney just kind of starts in with, okay, are you married? Great. You own your home? Great. You got kids? And I'm going, what's he doing? He hasn't even really said hello. My name is so-and-so. This is what I do. This is how I do it. This is what it's going to cost. Okay. In that particular meeting, they got to what it was going to cost at the end of the meeting after they'd already sat for an hour. Okay.
Yeah.
So it's a lot of stuff like that. I think, and the book just goes through all of that. It's not rocket science, but it goes through all of that. So you can go, okay. I mean, I think it's designed for professionals to look at it and go, oh, you know what? I can make a few adjustments from reading this book. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't, because, we're not saying reinvent your practice. We're saying pay attention to a few things that matter.
Yeah. When you talk trust compression, I'm curious for onboarding. That makes a lot of sense to me because you're starting a relationship and saying, are there things I can do that are deliberate and close together that significantly improves trust that may take a lot longer to get? Are there other things besides onboarding, other examples you can help people say, hey, you could apply this trust compression to other parts?
Well, sure. Yeah, no, I'm sorry, I don't mean to interrupt. I think it starts with whatever your process is. I mean, if you have a process that, like tax planning is a good example. When I go to my accountant, we do tax planning. I have to gird my loins to try to understand what I'm going to be told. All right. I understand it, but I don't devote a great deal of energy to it. That's why I have a tax person who does it for me. But even still, when we sit down and we start going through it, it's still sometimes a little daunting. And I wish that it could be broken down into elements that allowed me to follow it a little easier. Okay.
Okay.
Because I don't do everything. And there are elements of my financial world that I pay other people to pay attention to. And everybody does that. Okay. But that's what my favorite saying is, if I hire somebody to do anything, I want two things: solve my problem and make it painless if you can.
Interesting. Yes.
Okay.
I wonder for accountants, we probably often think of the first one. Right. I'm going to have this meeting and I need to make sure, the numbers tie and it's accurate. I get what I need, but we probably don't think much about, am I improving trust and making it painless for the other person?
Yeah. I mean, look, answer the client's questions without turning it into a TED talk, which unfortunately I did it way back in the day. So I'm just as guilty as anybody else.
Yeah.
I'll take a
So-
TED talk over just reading the numbers, though.
Yeah.
Yeah, in our world,
That's
it,
usually
it
interesting.
can get kind of brutal. And we do
Yeah.
a lot of really cool things, and we talk about this all the time. But we try to make ourselves the hero of the conversation sometimes too much by showing off our tools
Yeah.
in all of our reports. And like what you just said, you don't really care. You just need to know, kind of in layman terms, what is it, how does it impact me, and what do I need to do if I don't like the result.
I'll never forget back in the day, again, just to throw myself on the chopping block here, we used to go through all these portfolio metrics with clients way back then. So we had them all. We run reports that had all those metrics on them. And I used to explain what they were to clients because I thought they were cool.
Right.
And I remember I had a client, he's a doctor. He's a super smart guy. He's the head of the department. I'm starting to explain this. He starts leaning back in his chair and his eyes are glazing over and he's going, please stop.
Right. Exactly.
Yes.
And I it was a valuable lesson because a lot of us have clients that are smart people, but often their professions are so rigorous. By the time they talk to us, they have 6 brain cells left.
Yeah.
I have to turn it into schoolhouse rock. I have no choice.
Sure. And like you said, the reason they want to use you is because they don't understand this and maybe don't want to, right?
They don't want to devote energy to it. They just want look, you do it. And by the way, the smartest people in the world do this. They know where their expertise ends and someone else's begins.
Yeah.
And that's also, by the way, the whole idea of the network. We all need to understand that because we link arms with the right professionals. If we're on the right team, everybody wins.
Yeah.
I think sales is a big struggle for a lot of practitioners as well, and so I definitely want to get to like kind of the network and the referral aspect that you kind of cover in the book. But before we do that, you have this concept of like good growth. I mean, you like call out good growth. Can you explain a little bit about that concept? And I mean, why do so many professionals struggle with it, I guess?
Well, I think part of it is you're onboarding clients you shouldn't at some point. I think building a business or a practice at some point requires knowing what it is you want. It's like fishing. If you're out fishing for salmon, you take what is necessary to catch salmon. Now, if a bluefin tuna happens to jump in the boat, you'll take it, but you're going to throw a lot of fish back because that's not why you're there.
Yeah.
But we've met a lot of tax professionals, for example, who have all these really, really small clients. And it's not that they don't need what they do. Of course they do, but they're not their target client, but they have a bunch of them and it helps them grow, but it also helps them be busier than ever. That's kind of a loose example of what bad growth is, where you become as I mentioned earlier, a prisoner of your own success.
Mm-hmm.
What should you do? Number one, identify what it is you want. Who is your ideal client? Okay. Then take a look at your roster of clients and go, okay, how many people fit this description? Okay. Then start taking a look at, all right, who can I get rid of? And I don't mean you just fire them and cast them adrift, but can I develop a plan where they are referred to somebody else that takes just as good a care of them as I do, but I'm not doing it anymore. Okay. So I really think it's about intent, and clarity regarding what you're looking for, and then focus with regard to finding that and building out your practice. So what you have is a whole bunch of what you want.
How would you respond to this concern then? Adam and I coach a lot of CPA firms who are wanting to offer CFO services, which is great. As they're getting started, they want reps and they want clients that are in there. And we are saying, really, you should focus on niche and those good clients. So is there some balance between, you don't just want to take anyone because they're miserable clients, but you are trying to grow and you're maybe a little bit desperate of just finding growth. How do you kind of balance that when you're starting off and wanting to grow?
Look, I'm not saying it's easy. I mean, when you're starting out and you're just trying to grow practice, you'll just take anybody. And I get it. I did it. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think there's anything wrong with that as you're sort of, tilling the soil and building your book. I'm saying there comes a point, though, where that's unsustainable.
Yes.
So I think it's about a progression. I think at some point, This happens in our industry. Look, take anyone in the beginning, because anybody who fogs a mirror, take them. But when your business starts to mature a little bit, that's when you start to look at, okay, who do I want? Who do I work best with? By the way, a lot of this is about personality and character. It's about, do they align with who I am? Are we going to work together well? We're going to work together intimately. We might as well get along. Okay.
Yeah.
And I think it's perfectly okay to say no to anybody who checks every box, other than the personality aspect. You just may not mesh well with them.
Yeah.
I think that's a good segue there to some of that professional network and referrals. I mean, how has the national referral network really kind of impact your business growth and professional approach? And I mean, do you have any advice for business owners that are maybe listening to this saying, hey, how can I increase my referrals through professional networks?
Well, I mean, look, we've all been to networking events before, in all likelihood. You go there, you hand out business cards, and everybody extols their virtues, and nothing happens.
Right.
Sure.
Yep.
Yeah.
And or you've met other professionals, and you say why you're great, they say why they're great, and nothing happens. Okay. So in building the network, we realized a couple of things. First of all, we realized that we can no longer outsource anything to somebody who's going to be a knucklehead with it. And that was happening far too much. Okay. If I had nickel, I mean, you have no idea how much I've done estate planning attorneys' jobs. Like, we're calling them and going, just put the vacation house in the trust. Oh no, sorry, let me do that. It's like, dude, you're the one getting paid here. I'm doing your job. So it got a little tired of that. We've referred stuff to tax preparers who didn't file on time, or just stuff like that, where it's not representative of the experience we want to perpetuate. So we initially developed the National Referral Network as a means of outsourcing reliably, because we could hold everybody the same standard. If you're in the network, you have to step correctly. You got to be a squared away Marine as it relates to client service and care. So that was the first thing. What we found is we weren't the only professionals that wanted to refer reliably. The biggest concern amongst professionals when they send something to another professional is, what's the experience going to be like for my client? Okay.
Right.
So that gave it an additional dimension. Then we thought, okay, well, since we are building out digital family offices for our clients anyway, okay, where we need to be aligned with the attorney and the tax preparer and all the other professionals, what if we were all on the same team, telling the same story, talking about how, hey, you know what? You used to know me as just a tax preparer, but now I can do a whole bunch of other stuff by extension, because I've got an affiliation with a network that allows me to do that. The analogy we use is a shoe store and the Costco. If you walk into somebody's shoe store and they said, you know, that door back there, that leads to a Costco where you can get anything. Let me know if you need anything, right? I mean, it throws a whole new dimension onto your business, and you didn't do anything to build it. All you did was plug into it. So it's changed our business radically, because instead of just knowing an attorney, knowing a CPA, they know us, and nothing happening, what we're doing is building partnerships where we're honest to goodness team members. Okay. We're all telling the same story. We're almost representing the same storefront, which is the digital family office and the referral network. Okay. And we're telling that story. Like, we don't just do this one thing. What we want to do is build out something that's as complete as it can be. Here's how we're doing it. And then clients are either amenable or not, and it really doesn't matter. The whole idea is not to sell the services. The whole idea is to tell that story so you get elevated in your client's eyes, because they're going to be grateful that you just asked. Referrals are organic.
Yeah, the place where I could see that really coming into play as we work with people who are starting off, they'll often say, well, I don't do taxes, or maybe I don't do bookkeeping, or don't do a piece of this. And we're often saying, well, if you have prospects coming who want that, at least having an avenue that you can offer it to them and can say, I can get your taxes done, and I work with a great person. You can either white label it or let them know it's another person. But just saying I don't, to your point, people want it to be easy. And if they say, okay, you're telling me it's going to take 3 people or 2 people, I was hoping to go to 1, could be that kind of advantage.
Well, I get asked for referrals all the time. I get asked for I get asked for CPAs and attorneys. I also get asked for, do you know a handyman, or I need to buy a car, or
Okay.
I have a art collection. I don't know what it's worth. I get all kinds of requests.
Interesting.
So talk to me a little bit about that, because I think, and we probably don't do as good of a job here with our clients as advisors. We always tell our team, like, we're not expected to be the expert in everything, and don't pretend to be.
Mm-hmm.
There's a time and a place to bring in the,
Right.
all kinds of a variety of professionals. And I think we do a good job of introducing resources to our VCFO team. So each Friday we have a VCFO meeting. The first half hour is dedicated to bringing in kind of, I guess they would be a referral partner, but basically trying to create a network of, hey, there's this specific problem. You need to go see a specialist. This is the specialist. So we do a good job with that. But what I think I heard you just say, though, is maybe there's a difference between maybe a tier 1 and a tier 2 network. Like tier 1 for us would be a financial advisor,
Right.
might be an attorney, would probably be like a outsourced human resources department. Those are things that we're going to be talking to on a regular basis. And then tier 2 might be things that are just naturally going to be one-offs. They're going to be very specific. But I don't think we do a good job of, we do an introduction to that, but I don't know that we've done a solid job of like creating a true network. So do you have any advice, or have you had any experience with doing that for yourself, to where you do make even those tier 2 kind of referral sources more of like integrated and top of mind?
Well, look, some people are inclined to refer and some people aren't. That's just the way it is. So we're really working actively with those that understand kind of the value of this story. But I think it starts with the idea that this is a team sport. It's not a bunch of individuals working in their own separate silos. We are really, truly a team. We need to behave like one. Along with that goes the idea of, and we talk about this a lot in the book, which is the idea of edifying other people, build them up, make them look like they walk on water. We need to create receptivity in the eyes of the clients so they're receptive to what that person's saying, okay? It also makes me look better, and it also enables me to stay in my lane more. I'm not looking to be all things to all people. I can't be, okay?
Right.
So if I am edifying you or Tom or anybody else, then I look better in the process. And I just need to be able to trust that Tom is going to perpetuate the experience I need. But long before I even mention Tom, Tom's going to know what it means to be on my team, and I'm going to know what it means to be on his team. Okay. So now we kind of trust each other. Okay. And that's the differentiator. I think if you're looking at building a network, if you're a professional, you don't have one, that's what you want to build. You want to create relationships with people who are teammates, not just people you know.
Yeah. No, it makes a lot of sense.
It does. Michael, one of the things from the book that you talk about is it's common, especially accounting firms, but also professional service agencies, to think of managing growth as part of like getting rid of a certain percent of your clients over time, firing clients, things like that. And I see that you're saying, hey, you guys have got it backwards in that. I'm curious your thoughts on hearing that, because we do hear that quite a bit of people saying, I've got these low price clients. If I can get rid of them, I think usually they think I'll free up time and then I'll go get good clients. What's your thought?
Well, I think that can be true if you know who you're looking for. Again, back to the earlier example. If you don't know what you're looking for, you're not going to find it.
Okay.
So, I mean, it's possible to offload, people that you don't want to work with anymore, and
get worse clients,
get worse clients. So,
okay.
Look, it's a matter of intent and focus. I mean, if you're building a house, what do? You go to an architect and they draw it. They say, oh, this is what you want. Yeah. Then we draw the plans. Now we get somebody to build it. It's not rocket science, but for whatever reason, so many business owners don't have that kind of clarity. So I think it really is about intent and focus and discipline. I mean, you got to show up to work every day doing things that will move you towards what you want. You can't just think about it. And often, look, I think when you if you can show up and do that every day when you don't want to and you're uninspired to do it, congratulations. Now you're in the game.
Okay. Yeah. If I tie into something I said before about people trying to grow and saying kind of taking anyone, one thing that we'll tell them though is, but if you know the kind of client you want, you can still keep casting, like in your salmon analogy,
Yeah.
keep
Right.
fishing for salmon. If other things present themselves, you can take it. And I've often told people that for probably 10 plus years, we have targeted the digital agency niche with a
Right.
lot of success.
Right.
And still, it's probably about half of our clients. And so we've said we don't turn down other people. Some people hear about us. They come and I've got transportation companies and manufacturing companies. They're not the agency group that we're saying, hey, this is what we go after, but we do good work. And so you could do the same. I
Right.
go after a client and I can accept others.
And it's all the more reason that, I think every practice should be looking at some point, be looking at bringing in younger associates, and it's their job to work with those people. That's what we have. We have a program called Kids Fly Free. Okay. I couldn't think of anything else to call it. So it's called Kids Fly Free. And it's where we'll work with the next generation, our clients' kids, up to a certain net worth threshold, and for no fee, no charge. Okay. And we have younger associates in the firm that by and large do that. And we want those younger associates building those relationships because we want our clients to not have just a relationship with us, have the relationship with the firm. I want every client to have a relationship with 4 or 5 people, not just me. Okay.
Yeah. That sounds like a great program. That's really cool.
It all arose out of fear of not getting fired.
But I like the multi-generational. Well, and I was going to ask you about this from a personal side. I saw that you were or are a junior achievement instructor.
I was
right?
at one point. Yeah, I've done it a couple of times. It was fun. You're talking to high school kids, okay?
Yeah.
About money and finance, and what's really interesting about it is to get their point of view on everything, particularly since we live in a world of often conspicuous excess, where you're kind of bombarded with. I live in West LA, which is adjacent to a lot of very affluent communities. Holy cow, do you see that everywhere you go?
Sure.
So they're bombarded with those images. So it's interesting to talk to them about money and finance, how they see it. And I may go back and do something like that again.
Yeah, that sounds like it's aligned with the Kids Fly Free group. One reason I mentioned, have you heard of the BizTown program for junior achievement?
No, I haven't.
It's really cool.
I maybe vaguely. That's similar to junior achievement, isn't it?
It's a
Junior
part of it.
Achievement owned it. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
So
All right.
I mentioned because my wife worked there. So in Indianapolis, they had a location and it looked like a small city, and they would bring school groups in and people would get jobs and money and basically have a day where they had to interact with other people.
Yeah.
And would have a great time doing it, but also learn pretty well. And there were jobs that had a whole range of salaries. And so they would find some got paid a ton and some didn't get paid much. And it was a really good thing. My wife actually organized something for our family to go down and essentially play for the night. It was a lot of fun to do that. But junior achievement's great. It sounds like it connects with Kids Fly Free and teaching.
Yeah, it does. And we've got an educational system that is on our website. It's almost 300 different courses on finance. We way back in the day, we used to do a lot of educational seminars for like medical people, doctors, nurses, people like that. And what we heard from doctors especially was, we didn't learn about this stuff in high school, college, or med school. So several years ago, we just thought, well, let's put this all on the website. This is all the stuff you should have learned but didn't. And so I always give that. If I have a client that has teenage or young adult kids, I'll always give that to them. Say, look, give this to your kids. Everything you didn't learn, they can learn here, and it's free.
That's great.
Yeah, Tom, that program's pretty awesome. I got 4 kiddos, so I wanted to hire an 8th grader one time. I was like, man, this guy's a great accountant. He was processing payroll and doing all this stuff.
That's great. You're like I'm seeing the college coach watching the grade school. Like look, when you get out, you're mine.
Yeah,
that's cool.
There are high school kids now who have who are making money on trading apps.
Yeah.
Right?
No,
I'm not
definitely.
surprised.
I mean, and I know, I mean, just kind of thinking about innovation and forward thinking. I know your motto is we build what should exist, right? So can you give me an example of like how that philosophy would apply to like a CPA firm, for example? What do you mean whenever you say we build what should exist?
Well, I think it emanates from just, kind of the need to take care of people at the optimal level. In other words, you look at what your capabilities are, like how well can I take care of this person? And that should give you an idea of what you want to build beyond what you have. But I don't know that anymore that you even need to build it. I think aligning yourself with it makes more sense. What can I plug into? What partnerships can I build with other professionals so that my clients are better served? So I think it's about just wanting to be better and to a certain extent looking at what doesn't make sense and fixing it. I mean, does it make sense that if, going back to the onboarding process, does it make sense that you're going to onboard a client and spend an hour with them going through 33 pages? Maybe, maybe not.
Sure.
I mean, if at some point, I understand it's necessary to your work. You need a certain amount of information. But maybe a lot of that stuff can be reinvented so that everybody's aligned and moving in the same direction.
Yeah, that sounds consistent with what you said earlier around you can take small steps. Right. As you talked about in the book, these are some practical things that maybe you don't have to be overwhelmed. Say, okay, you're telling me I need to blow up the entire practice. And I can't do that kind of thing.
Yeah. Look, if you wanted to get in shape, you're not going to go out and run a marathon tomorrow. All right. Sure. I mean, you're going to make small incremental changes. So, but I do think a lot of professionals can do that. I think a lot of CPA firms can just look at, how do I think the biggest issue is if you're older, how do I segue out of the practice at some point? Okay. Yeah. Are there people in my practice or by extension that I trust? Do I trust them to do things with clients the way that I would? What is my infrastructure? Your support staff your support staff, they're the ones who make you look good. So you better have good people.
Yeah.
And don't undervalue them. Support staff get undervalued all the time, and like the old saying goes, they make just enough not to get fired. So they respond you pay them just enough not to quit. And so they respond by doing just enough work not to get fired.
Yes.
That kind of thing. That's short-sighted thinking.
Yeah.
As you talk about, sorry?
No, go ahead.
Yeah, no, I mean, and by the way, I was guilty of that for a long time. I'll say this too. Just because you own a business doesn't mean you know how to run one.
Right.
It took me a long time to not be the boss from hell. Okay. Oh. And I had to learn how to do it. I mean, I like to think now I'm a pretty easy guy to work for. There's a lot of physician heal thyself here. And a lot of that's in the book. I mean, just simple things like, acknowledgments to people who make you look good. I don't think we can do enough of that.
Yeah, that's great. There's a mindset, maybe it's a mindset that I see in the book, that people prioritizing practicing their specialty over their responsibility to run the business well. Right. And I think just keeping that in mind and saying, okay, as I'm spending my time today, which am I doing? And it really strikes me when we talk about someone later in their career that might be starting to think about transitioning out, there's probably some urgency that should be there around, okay, my head has been down just doing the work, but no one else can do what I do. There's no processes, things that would just say that mindset might have me pull back and say, okay, how do I try to run the business well versus just practicing?
Yeah. Years ago, I started taking a look at all the things I did in a given day and going, okay, what can I get rid of?
Sure.
And so over the past few years, I've gotten rid of most of them. I'm now down to, I do 2 or 3 things and that's it. Everything else is done by someone else. Most of that other stuff, I never hear about it. My staff doesn't even tell me about it. My clients probably call my staff more than they talk to me. That didn't happen overnight, but it was a conscious effort. And I had to work at a lot of it, and
Sounds like good
again,
signs of progress.
another reason for writing the book is like, here's what we learned and what we worked at. Here's how not to get blown up.
Yeah. So in addition to the book, A Firm Worth Building, are there other resources that you would want to share if people are interested in more around the network, more around other things that your firm could offer that people can do this?
Well, I think one of the benefits of really any network, in particular this one, is you get to be around people who are maybe a little further up the stem than you are. And if you're open to it and they're open to it, you can learn from each other. I mean, it creates a collaborative environment. I would be nothing at all, and were it not for the fact that I managed to pick a few of the right associations. And so I clustered around people who were where I wanted to be and had the businesses that I wanted. So I think, as a general premise, I think that's invaluable because we're going to learn from each other. Okay. But I always advocate the simple stuff, get around people who are where you want to be, get around people that inspire you, get around people that challenge you, read a lot of books. I mean, make that just a habit, and try to grab a hold of some clarity regarding what you want. I mean, what's the old saying? Those that know how work for those that know why. Right.
Interesting. Yep. It's probably a good quote to close on.
Yeah.
That's really helpful. You've given a lot of people things to think about and then actions that they could take, including your book, including the National Referral Network. I think those are great.
Right. Remember, books available on Amazon. I know. Probably going to cut that.
No, go ahead and show it. It's a big part of what we talked about.
Absolutely.
Excellent. Michael Clarke, thank you very much. This has really been a valuable conversation.
Thank you.
Enjoy this podcast? Visit our website, summitcpa.net, to get more tips and strategy for achieving modern CPA firm success. We're here to be a resource in this ever-changing industry.